Now, I don't know about y'all, but I felt like this weekend was one of the best weekends of the 2025 college football season we've had so far. There were so many games that came down to the end. There were so many games that felt very competitive. It felt like these teams had a lot to play for because there were a lot of games this season, conference championship games, that really impacted the college football playoff. And I think this is really what the 12-team playoff, the beauty of it, really shined this weekend. Shine, whatever you want to call it. But we felt like more games had weight and gravitas towards the outcome, how these teams played, how are they going to be seeded. And that's what happened this weekend. All of these games were competitive, made for great football viewership, and we're going to dive right into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of College Football Under Review, a show made by a football fan for football fans everywhere. And we've got our conference championship recap episode. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Helps us out, lets us know that you enjoy the content and you want to be a part of the Under Review community. But this weekend, Duke wins the ACC and opened the door for two group of five teams in the playoffs. Georgia wins its first SEC championship against Alabama under Kirby Smart. Texas Tech establishes themselves as a threat for this playoff. And I felt like this weekend overall was great. It was fabulous. And we will be going over the 12-team playoff after we talk about the conference championship matchups. Now, before we take these college football championship matchups under review, we have got to talk about our own conference championship. Who is that? It's the Under Review 38 Hot Tubs Championship. 38 Hot Tubs is family-owned and American-built, supplying Viking tubs that feature high-quality material and superior components, ensuring that every aspect of the hot tub is designed to last for years to come. When it comes to relaxation, recovery, and overall well-being, few things compared to the soothing experience of a high-quality hot tub. And for Rob Abel, it's all about helping people improve their health and quality of life. Whether you're an athlete looking for muscle recovery or someone who simply wants to unwind after a long day, soaking in a hot tub can provide numerous benefits. The ideal combination of warm water and hydrotherapy jets can ease tension and lower cortisol levels to help combat anxiety. A hot tub even promotes better blood flow, which leads to better muscle recovery, reduced soreness, and improved flexibility combined with overall cardiovascular health improvements. Even a nice nighttime soak can improve sleep quality by relaxing the body and mind before bed. So if you're interested in experiencing the therapeutic benefits of a Viking spa, reach out to Rob Abel today. If you mention this ad to Rob, your journey to relaxation and wellness starts with a $200 discount off one spa and $600 off an order of two 38 hot tubs. Whether you're looking for relief from sore muscles, a way to enhance your fitness routine, or simply a place to relax with family and friends, Rob is here to help you find the perfect hot tub to fit your needs. Now, let's take these conference championship matchups under review. First one, the winner of Conference USA, Kennesaw State, as they beat Jacksonville State 19-15. This is a ginormous, huge win for Kennesaw State after they went 2-10 last season after joining the FBS, and now they're Conference USA conference champions. That is insane. They had a whole debacle last season where they fired their head coach midway through the season. The players, some of them seemed to like him. He was a great guy. He got them to college football, and then they brought in a new head coach. Well, that new head coach got him a Conference USA championship, which is great for them. I felt like this Jacksonville State team was not a group of five juggernaut, but a very competitive team in this conference, as they had a lot of guys stay on the team after Rich Rod left. This game was very close, but there was a horrible play call by Jacksonville State's head coach that caused them to lose the game. So Kennesaw State are Conference USA champions this season. But the Sun Belt, this was a big game for one of these teams. Number 25, James Madison, is your Sun Belt champion, beating Troy 31-14. Now, despite the score, this game was very close until the fourth quarter. It was definitely a defensive battle going into halftime, but when it came down to it, James Madison ripped off a great run, and then they got a pick six that put the game well out of the way for Troy. And the score differential, I think, really helped JMU's case for the playoffs, which they did get in. James Madison got this huge win for them. They are Sun Belt champions. Their head coach will be staying with them until they lose in the college football playoff, and then he will be going to the head coaching job at UCLA. Another one of these teams that are allowing their head coach to coach these teams in the playoffs. Like I said, I think it's because he's on good terms. He was communicative with them and the university, and I think they know that they have a better chance with them in if the coach stays. Same thing that's going on with Tulane. But James Madison, they continue to do what they have done all season. They're dominating opponents in imposing their will, not just on defense, but offensively, they looked sound. They looked as playoff ready as a group of five team can be in this now new college football landscape. I felt like their defense was not super physical, but they were great at locking down the Troy receivers, and they were able to stop Troy from getting very big, explosive plays on the ground. So all of this just culminated in James Madison just slowly closing the door on Troy. It felt like in the second half, slowly, as they just continued to play sound, fundamental football to get the win over Troy, 31-14. And so that takes us to the other big group of five matchup from Friday night. Number 24, North Texas, and number 20, Tulane for the American Athletic Conference. Tulane beats North Texas 34-21, and Jake Retzlaff showed up to lead his team to a win with his playmaking ability really being on the forefront of this win. It felt like he was willing to put his body on the line. It felt like he was aware of what was going on. He was game ready. He is leading a team that I also believe is playoff ready. Are they going to win in the playoffs? Probably not, because they're going to be going up against Ole Miss, and we all know what happened last time they played Ole Miss. The whole student section left by the third quarter. But this Tulane team did what they needed to do, not make mistakes. And they did not make really any mistakes this entire game. And I think one of the best things about this team was the question of how are they going to keep up with North Texas's explosive offense? Well, they just had their offense be just as explosive and even better and more efficient than North Texas was the entire night. It felt like Tulane really just had control of this game offensively and defensively, at least going into the third quarter. This was another one of those games where the first half felt very competitive, very close, and then one of these group of five teams just slowly edged out and kept on going and won the game. And I think that's a testament to just how these teams, especially Tulane and James Madison, able to play a better second half, shows that they wanted the win more, shows that they are more prepared for the playoffs than a team like North Texas or Troy, even though Troy had no chance to be in the playoffs. But number 20, Tulane, beats North Texas 34-21 for the American Athletic Championship. And then the Mountain West, this game just got out of hand real quick. Boise State beats UNLV for the Mountain West title 38-21. Overall, Boise State just continues to own UNLV. I think Boise State is 4-0 against them in their last four meetings, including conference championship games. This is the second year in a row it's been UNLV, Boise State. Boise State just continues to win. Nothing much on here. I still think that Dan Mullen had a great season with UNLV. First year back as a head coach, he got them to 10 wins. That's pretty good in my book, but he's just going to have to do better if he wants to compete in the Mountain West, which will not be a problem as they'll be in the Pac-12, I believe. They might be in the Pac-12 next season. And then we've got the last group of five game, Miami of Ohio and Western Michigan for the MACtion, the MAC conference. Number 23, Western Michigan beats Miami of Ohio 23-13. Didn't really watch this game, I'm going to be honest, because my eyes were all on the Big 12 game. You may say, God, the Big 12 game, that was a blowout, wasn't it? Yes, it was. But North Texas beats number 4, North Texas beats number 11, BYU, 34-7. I could tell after the first BYU drive, this game felt very reminiscent of, as soon as the drive was over, it felt very reminiscent of the national championship last year against Notre Dame and Ohio State, and how I thought the game was going to continue on after that first touchdown. And I'll explain what I thought and why I thought it felt like that. It felt like BYU, they stopped Texas Tech and they got the ball. And they went on this long drive, had to waste 2 timeouts. They had a couple of trick plays. It felt like BYU just showed all their cards already. They put out all the stops on this first drive, and as soon as it was over, they just seemed to like really worn out. And I thought, God, this team really just fought every inch just to get 7 points. I don't know if they can do this the whole game. And they, in fact, couldn't. They got out-physicalized by the entire Texas Tech defense. The Texas Tech linebackers attacked that line of scrimmage so well, so confidently, that they are a legitimate threat in this playoff for any offense that is going to face this Texas Tech defense. And this game also got out of hand when Bear Brockmeyer got injured with his ankle. Just kind of when that happened, it felt like the game was way out of reach for BYU at a talent level situation, because with Bear Brockmeyer's scrambling ability being kind of just gone, it really limits what they are able to do schematically on offense, because this whole season, he really has been doing well scrambling, running with the ball. And I think him having to stay in the pocket kind of led to all these second half turnovers. And you can't win any game with 4 turnovers, picks, they almost just looked like they were giving up in the second half. This Texas Tech team, all the flowers to them. Defense played great. Bren Morton looked not flashy, not great, but he looked reliable. And that's what this Texas Tech team needs on offense, because their defense is more than just reliable. This defense is good, and they can easily ride that through the semifinals or the quarterfinals in the college football playoffs. So Texas Tech beats BYU 34-7. And then we get to, oh boy, the SEC championship game. Number 3 Georgia beats number 9 Alabama 28-7. Kirby Smart, congratulations. He finally got his SEC championship win against Alabama. Got that monkey off his back. But going to Alabama, Ty Simpson and this whole Alabama offense was not together. They were not on the same page. This offense has not looked the same since the Tennessee win in October. This team really doesn't feel like has that killer instinct that we're used to seeing. They've struggled against these mediocre SEC teams and faced what was the best SEC team yesterday, though it was Alabama's only still in the playoffs because of their win during the regular season against Georgia. But Ty Simpson, he could not connect with his receivers the whole game. And when he actually did and hit them in the chest, it just proceeded to hit the ground and the balls were dropped numerous times. But Georgia in this game, they scored due to Alabama giving them short field position their 4 times for their 4 touchdowns. The Alabama defense did great against them, but you can't do much when Georgia is just doing everything right. Georgia still has this secondary problem with committing penalties that are just useless, dumb, terrible, just plays on defense that allows certain teams like Alabama to extend their drive and score a touchdown, and that's how they got their only touchdown in the game. But I still will say, and still give Georgia flowers that I think that they are a playoff team. They are looking playoff ready. Their defense has matured and gotten better, I think, from when Alabama played them in week 4. And I will say this. Congratulations, Mike Bobo, for only calling, I believe, one bubble screen pass. I was very shocked. Very shocked. I'm glad that you have learned your lesson. Georgia fans, you can rest easy. It seems that Mike Bobo is actually, developing a brain. Maybe his prefrontal cortex had like a tumor in it and it just hasn't fully gotten there. But I think it finally has. I think all the Georgia fans have gotten to Mike Bobo saying, please stop with the bubble screen passes. But this was a big win for Georgia. It was a win that felt like they never would get, and them finally getting it in the way that they did, I feel like kind of just made it almost lessen the excitement about it. I think Georgia knows that they were in this position last year and lost in their quarterfinal round in the playoffs. So this is a team that I don't think is going to go silently in the night and can make a very deep run in the playoffs. So number 3, Georgia beats number 9, Alabama, 28-7 for their first SEC championship game, beating Alabama under Kirby Smart. And then, oh my gosh, one of the best games this weekend too. Number 2, Indiana beats number 1, Ohio State for the Big Ten championship, 13-10. What a game. What a missed field goal. And the missed field goals continue to be a curse for Ohio State and haunt Ryan Day's led Ohio State's teams. I mean, overall, it felt different. It felt like Ohio State, the first time this season, played a good team. And they played a team that is very good in coaching. I think that Ryan Day's staff got out-coached, and part of it had to do with them out-coaching themselves. I felt like all season they have coached and played with such a swagger and such a dominant fashion that they kind of throw caution up into the wind and say, no, we trust our team. That's not how they looked in this game. They felt like they were playing very conservative. Brian Hartline coached a very conservative game. It felt like they didn't want to lose it. It felt like they were almost like how James Franklin would coach a Penn State team. Ryan Day it felt like that they played to not lose instead of to win. And that was the difference between Indiana and them. Indiana played and coached this game like they were there to win, And if they lost, oh well, we're still going to be in the playoffs. And so I think that Fernando Mendoza, even though he threw a pick, their one touchdown drive was still beautiful. It was magnificent. It was 2 explosive plays and then a touchdown. And I told myself that just might be his Heisman moment. It just might be, but I still want Diego Pavia to win it. But getting back to Ryan Day and this field goal call at the end of the game, it was stupid. It was a field goal where you play not to lose instead of playing to win. And they have an easy 27-yard chip shot field goal. Wide left, they miss it, not even to win the game, to tie the game, to make it 13-13 with Indiana about over 2 minutes left on the clock. They easily could have gone down and scored if they wanted to again. They just did against you. Ohio State they may be the best team in the nation, but they did not play or were coached like they were the best team in the nation or had all the resources the best team in the nation should have. But on the other side, Indiana and Curt Cignetti, what they have done is nothing short of a miracle. I think Curt Cignetti is now arguably leading an Indiana team with a vengeance and fight, not compared to really any other team in the country right now. I think he has this team peaking at the right time coming into the playoffs. I think this is a team that had a foundation last season, but now they've built up on top of that foundation and made it better, and it can only go up next year. I think that we possibly just saw a national championship preview, and that this could easily be the national championship rematch at the end of the season and at the end of the playoffs. but this was such a fun game to watch, such a great one. Number 2, Indiana beats number 1 Ohio State 13-10 for the Big Ten. And now, the game we've all been waiting for, the Duke win. Duke wins in overtime against number 17 Virginia to win the ACC 27-20. Just want to point out, Manny Diaz got an ACC championship before Mario Cristobal did, and he got fired from Miami. Have fun, Miami, with Mario Cristobal dropped the ball. But, man, I really thought that this Duke defense was going to choke this game away. And that's almost what happened. Virginia had under 2 minutes to go down and score and win, or at least tie this game, bring it into overtime. And that's what they did. One of the craziest desperation drives I've seen in a while. Duke defense just making all the mistakes, the penalties, the open coverage. I'll give credit, though. Virginia had some great plays in there. And I thought the Duke defense was going to choke this game away. Duke had never been in overtime before this season. Virginia had been in 4 games in overtime. Virginia had all the experience that they needed to win this game. Yet who came up during overtime and secured the win for them? The Duke defense getting a pick off of Chandler Morris after Virginia had I haven't seen this in a while. I think I've seen it once before, but they had a personal foul against them for the Duke touchdown. And what happened was they didn't start the overtime on their 25. The penalty was tacked onto that start. So they had to start on their own 40, which kind of just put this whole Virginia team, I felt like, in a downward spiral mentally to compete in overtime. And so because of that, Chandler Morris threw a dumb pick, and the Duke defense came up and won the game for him. Darian Mensah's $4 million contract has matured already for Duke. Even though it was not the prettiest season, it's still crazy that Duke was able to get it out. This win now allowed 2 group of 5 teams in, and Virginia was knocked out of the playoffs. So Duke getting it done as your ACC champ, 27-20 against number 17, Virginia. Now, let's get into we're going to do our player of the week, and we're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we're going to do our college football 12-team playoff discussion last. So that's how we are going to do this. But our player of the week, yes, Georgia fans, I'm giving it to Gunnar Stockton. He was 20 for 26 for his passing attempts. He only threw for 156 pass yards, but his 3 touchdowns are what won them the game. Gunnar Stockton, your player of the week in the SEC championship. He just played sound, fundamental football, didn't make too many mistakes, and that's all you really can ask for when you're playing an Alabama team. And so here are my takeaways from this weekend. I think Georgia is now primed for a national championship this year after the way they looked. I don't think that they have all the talent there, but I think their defense has matured in such a great way that all they have to do is have their offense play above average to have a great chance of winning any game against any team in that playoff. I think and I stated this earlier, seen a national championship preview with Indiana and Ohio State. And one thing that was weird that I kind of have in my head is that why does Indiana feel like a Cinderella story? TCU was technically the last one, but Indiana, they've never been in the spot before. They have not found this sort of success in a long time. So it does feel like a Cinderella story to me. It feels like they are this team of destiny, the team that has turned it around, the team that has had a historic turnaround for their program after being the losingest program in college football history. But after their win against Penn State, it's now to Northwestern. So congratulations, Indiana, on that one. And sticking on Indiana, I think Curt Cignetti has cemented himself as the best hire in college football since, I would say, the likes of Kirby Smart at Georgia, Nick Saban at Alabama. I think that in Curt Cignetti at Indiana, I think he has been one of the best coaching hires in the last 5 years. And then I think these group of 5 teams are going to get destroyed in the playoffs, but I feel more confident in JMU than Tulane, just because I think JMU is a more complete team and Tulane feels more streaky. And I think that this was one of the best conference championship weekends that I have seen in recent years. Even the Georgia-Alabama game, yes, the score didn't reflect a good game, but it still felt like a competitive game that Bama could come back at any moment. Maybe that's just me being a delusional fan, but it did feel like there was still some competitive stuff within it. And all the other games really were competitive and came down to the end, except for the Mountain West as well. And then I think that this playoff bracket, once we get into it and we discuss it a little bit more, will be way more exciting than last season. And then our closing categories. The good. I'm giving the good to the Indiana football program's historic turnaround. What Curt Cignetti has done for them in the last 2 seasons. Take them to an undefeated season, to their first Big Ten championship since, I believe, 1967, to the college football playoff 2 years in a row, the 2 years he's been there. He has completely changed the program around, what they represent, how they play, how their mentality is going into a game, and what Indiana football means for the state. Now, the bad is also going to a Big Ten team in that same game. It's the Ohio State missed 27-yard field goal to tie the game. When you have that opportunity at 27 yards, you can't miss that. You just cannot miss that. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. And that's why it is the bad. It's the Ohio State missed 27-yard field goal to tie the game. And then the ugly, it was BYU and Alabama's performances this weekend. Both teams came out, almost laid a goose egg on their games, but came out uninspired and just unathletic. They couldn't catch. BYU was throwing it to the wrong team. Alabama couldn't catch and making very dumb play calling decisions. And it really just put a sour taste in my mouth for both of these teams and how they're compared to their season, because I feel like both these teams had pretty good seasons, but it just brought a sour taste to my mouth for what their season was and how it was capped off. But now let's get into the 2025 college football 12-team playoff and the top 25. I'm going to go into the playoff first, and then we will go into the college football top 25. But our 12-team playoff includes, our first round games include number 12 JMU against number 5 Oregon, who will then go on, whoever wins that game will go on to play number 4 Texas Tech. We get a rematch at number 9 Alabama at number 8 Oklahoma, and whoever wins that will go and face number 1 seed Indiana. And then our 11 seed Tulane will play number 6 Ole Miss in another rematch where the winner will go on to play Georgia as the 3 seed. And then our final first round game, I think, will be very exciting to watch. Maybe the most exciting out of the 4. That is number 10 Miami going to play at Texas A&M, who is number 7. And whoever wins that game will play number 2 Ohio State. Now, I will give my first initial reactions. I think that them not changing much was very shocking. I was very shocked that they didn't move Alabama away from anything. They didn't move Georgia up to 2. They kept Ohio State and Indiana flipped. I think that's very fair based on them going in 1 and 2 and the game being so close. I think with Georgia at 3 and Texas Tech at 4, I mean, both of them kind of played the same style of opponent, so I think it's very fair for that. I think they got 1 through 4 accurate. Now, when we get to the 2 group of 5 spots for conference champions, I think JMU and Tulane, both the 2 teams that are definitely deserving of it in the conference champion circle, those group of teams. So I think 12 and 11, nothing wrong there. I think that Miami being in over Notre Dame, at 10 is 100% the right move. I don't like that the committee had Notre Dame ahead of Miami this whole time, and then they just said, oh, wait, haha, we're just messing around with y'all. We're going to put them in. I think it was them being cowards or them trying to argue that maybe Bama should be out, but they wanted Bama in. And I think it's smart of them to put Miami over Notre Dame. I think it would have just set a bad precedent, and it would have just been a bad look on the committee. And I think it now forces Notre Dame to look at themselves in the mirror and say, okay, we can go about this two ways. We can schedule even easier games and not lose, or we should have a tougher strength of schedule, because I like that they're being called out that they played a soft schedule and that you can't get in the playoffs with a soft schedule like that. Because for a lot of these conference teams, you can't control your schedule because you have to play whatever the conference tells you. But no, Notre Dame doesn't have that problem, so there shouldn't be... there can't be too much of a defense for their schedule because they're the ones that are choosing it. Sometimes, it can come down to another program not wanting to play them, but I doubt that would happen. But I think that the number 12 JMU against number 5 Oregon, sadly, I think that's going to be a blowout, as well as the Ole Miss game. I think it could be a little different for Ole Miss and Tulane just because Lane Kiffin's not there, so it might be a little iffy. But I still think Ole Miss has all the talent in the world to continue to dominate against Tulane and probably put up a good fight against Georgia. I just don't know about that third down play calling. I think Lane Kiffin was a great job and a great coach at that. And then the number 9, I think Alabama and Oklahoma, my initial thought is I think Alabama having 3 weeks to prepare for Oklahoma will create a much different game atmosphere and a much different Alabama team that we've seen. Alabama had 10 players injured going into the SEC championship. And I think that Oklahoma, they are a good team, but I think Alabama will have their number this time. So I think that will be a very interesting game. But either one of those teams will give Indiana a tough game at the Rose Bowl. So I'm very excited for that. And then Miami and Texas A&M. I think that this is going to be a fabulous game, a fun game to watch. I think it's actually going to be very high scoring. I hope it's the Friday night game. I think it deserves to be the Friday night game, especially at Kyle Field. That would be so awesome. I think Texas A&M, though, has a better chance to beat Ohio State if they go into the next round than Miami would against Ohio State. Just because I don't think Miami is as good on offense as Texas A&M is, going up against someone as high caliber as Ohio State has on defense. But I think overall, this is going to be a much more exciting playoff. I think there's a lot more teams that can win this national championship, and I think this is going to be one that is going to go down for the ages, in my opinion. I think there are so many narratives here that are going to make this playoff so much more exciting and so much more intense. So I'm very excited for this college football playoff, not just because Alabama squeaked and made it in. But when we look at the top 25 as a whole, let's take a look and view it. They really didn't change anything until it got to 17. They had Notre Dame at 11, BYU 12, but really relatively kept everything the same. I think Arizona, one of the biggest shockers this season. I think Arizona had a great season. Them finishing at 17 is great after really not just preseason being one of these middle-of-the-pack Big 12 teams. I think it's definitely huge that they were able to finish 17. It felt like they may have been trying to get their head coach kind of out of there. So great for them. I think Tulane should have jumped above Virginia, just because Virginia losing to Duke after Tulane beat Duke, it doesn't make any sense for me, in my opinion. And then North Texas staying at 25. I guess so. I think they could have put Tennessee there against North Texas. I think Tennessee is better. But yeah, this is our final top 25 since December 7th, and this is our top 25 going through into the playoffs. The playoff is set the regular season over, time for the postseason, and it is time for some of the most exciting football. But with all that being said, we will be doing an overall bowl season preview next week. I personally love bowl games. I'm not going to go over every one, but I am going to pick out some of the most fun games and do some superlatives on them and see which ones I think could be interesting. So we will be doing that next week. And we will not be doing a recap of every bowl week, sadly enough, but we will do a first round preview for the playoffs on December 18th. So one episode next week, and then we will get another one on Thursday, December 18th, and then that following Sunday, we will have a recap, and we will do that until the college football playoff is over for those games. I'm Nick Watts. Thank all of you for tuning in to this episode, and we'll see you next time when we take more college football under review.